Hello and welcome to Degrassi Schools In. I'm Eevee. This is a podcast where I am watching Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High for the first time as a longtime fan of The Next Generation and beyond. And I am super excited to have my guest today, who is a super fan of the seasons that I am just now getting into. If you are a super fan as well of this era, I feel like you have to know who this account is. You have to follow them. If you aren't already, you should. And that is my friend Degrassi CSI. Welcome to the podcast, Degrassi CSI.
Aloha. Thank you for having me.
I just picked up my Lola Funko Pop and she was backwards. If you are watching the video podcast, we have friends. We've got Wheels and Lola and Joey. This is a part of the Degrassi CSI lore. If you follow Degrassi CSI, you're probably more familiar with this little Funko Pop than you are the guy behind the Funko Pops. But I am very lucky and very honored to get this FaceTime with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm stoked.
I'm stoked to have you on here. When I started getting into this era, when I started this podcast, I started following you and I started seeing all of these posts, and I had no context for what you were posting about, but I just thought it was so cool how dedicated you are to the history. I just wanted to say, first of all, this is just me spilling my first impression of you. I just think it is so impressive how passionate you are about preserving and sharing the history of this era of the show. You were an obvious guest for me, like from the jump. You were somebody that I really wanted to have on.
Thank you. That means a lot. I'm honored to be here.
I'm so happy. And you've been such a great supporter of Degrassi Schools In from the start as well.
Yeah, I remember the episodes you did with Degrassi Kid.
Yeah, the first episode, Kiss Me Steph, and now we are in Parents' Night. How do you feel about the fact that I'm almost done with season one? You've kind of witnessed me watching this. How has it been?
Oh, it's awesome. I like it's like the I think you have an advantage because you've read the book. So things must
Yeah.
hit different for you. Certain things you've read the book and you've been to the
Yeah.
locations, which a lot of people don't.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a very unique perspective where I am like surrounded by so much of this Degrassi history, mostly because of my interest in the later generations, but because I'm so entrenched in all of this, it's inevitable that the historical stuff has come up. We talked about I'm wearing a Degrassi High shirt. I've never seen an episode of Degrassi High, but I've walked the halls of
But you've
Degrassi
been
High.
there. You've
So
been there.
exactly. So it's a really weird position that I'm in, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast because I love podcasts like this where people are experiencing it and giving their fresh perspective on things for the first time.
That discovery, that new feeling.
Exactly. And I've had like a lot of fun predicting what I think is going to happen and then watching the episode and being like, "Oh, okay, I was like way off." I totally like with this episode that we're going to talk about today, I tried to predict what I thought was going to happen, and the B plot that I came up with in my head didn't exist at all in this episode, but I still feel like it would have been fun. Maybe I'll get into that in a little bit. I wanted to start by asking you a couple of just general questions about Degrassi so that we can get to know your background. How did you get into Degrassi? Do you remember the first episode that you watched?
Yes, it was Best Laid Plans on PBS in Hawaii in 1987.
Was that like, yeah, right when it aired, pretty much, right?
Yes, with first round
Yeah.
on in the States.
How old were you when you first watched that episode?
I was 11 years old. I remember relating to Arthur and Yick and stuff.
I completely understand that. I feel like they are characters that are very easy to self-insert. They're less like aspirational. They're more like
Yeah,
very
entry level.
exactly. Yeah. One of the questions that I was going to ask you is like what characters you relate to. So would you say Arthur and Nick throughout you still related to, or was it really just in that first episode that they caught your attention?
Yeah, during my middle school years, Arthur and Yick I definitely related to, and Wheels, but for another reason. Yeah.
Understandable. Is there a moment when you went from a Degrassi fan or somebody who casually watched Degrassi to a Degrassi super fan, which you are, I think, very clearly today?
Yes. It was season three, the season three premiere, Degrassi Junior High. Can't live with them. That's when I totally fell in love with the Wheels.
I can't wait to get to that, and maybe I'll have to have you on that episode later down the line when we get there,
Yeah.
because that's so fascinating. So you were really on the ride for a while before you got
Yes.
to be a super fan. I find that very interesting.
Like these first two seasons, Wheels was on my radar, but he wasn't my favorite character yet. He didn't become my favorite character until season 3.
He's sneaking in there for me because we'll get in there, we'll get into it with this episode,
Yeah.
but he is such a good character and he's so sweet and like I completely get it now. I get my friends who are like obsessed with wheels. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see it now as we're starting to get his characterization a little bit more. Was there any, well, I can't really ask this question without spoiling. I was gonna say was what in particular made you really attached to wheels, but I feel like that might be a spoiler.
Maybe, yeah, that might
Yeah,
be a
okay, we'll
spoiler.
stay away from that. We'll say I try to stay away from even discussing stuff, anything that happens later on, because I feel like that gets into spoiler territory. Would you say you have a favorite season or era of Degrassi?
Season 3 of DJH and
Okay,
DJH High is my favorite. That's my whole era and stuff.
I'm
But I've watched
yeah.
all Degrassi.
So was that you started watching, you were around 11, so you were getting into like high school age when those seasons, if I'm doing the math correctly, were you about to be in high school age when Degrassi Junior High season 3 aired, would you say?
I was 7th grade.
Okay. I was gonna say I have a theory in my brain about like when you watch the show in kind of like those developmental years. I feel like the era that you watch, because I think for me that was like season 10 era
Oh wow,
of yeah, baby. I'm a
Shark in the
baby.
Water era.
Yeah, I think I was like middle school era around then, and that's really the era other than next class, because next class was when I was actively in high school and like graduating high school. So for me, those eras are really what captures me. So I think typically if you grew up watching Degrassi, those seasons are gonna stick with you and be your favorite. Which I think that's
Most
true for
definitely,
like
yeah.
Degrassi Kid too. Like they were a teenager with the whole Fiona Coin era, and that is their ride or die favorite era. So you were like in your developmental years, you were the target audience for the show at that point. So that makes sense why that was your that ended up being your favorite era. That's my theory at least.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you're spot on. 100%,
yeah,
1000%.
1000%, not just 100%. I love your confidence in me. You mentioned that you love Wheels. Are there any other characters that really stick out to you?
Um, I love Melanie. I love Arthur. I love Lucy. I'm a big
Okay.
Lucy. I just love her moxie. She just has like pizzazz, like spunk. I just had something about moxie. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see more of Lucy because I've only really seen her in like What a Night was the first episode that I feel like we really got to see the spotlight. And that was an interesting episode for her. She definitely had moxie.
I just like her. I just like her telling Radish, "You're a fascist." I just love that
I
line.
know. I love that character. And there's always one in every era that just has that like attitude. Do you feel like I don't know, who do you think Lucy kind of reminds you of in Next Generation? Because I haven't seen her enough to draw parallels.
Maybe a little bit of early Ashley.
I feel that. Okay. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
one of the things that has been my favorite thing about watching this is drawing the parallels between the characters of this era to what they create later because they're definitely pulling from the junior high like tropes and stuff.
yeah,
Even with this episode, Joey was very much giving me Toby vibes, which I thought was
yeah. With the grade
interesting.
changing, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I knew you would know what I was talking about.
I think the Earth has healed by the amount of recycling that Degrassi has done because of
I
it.
agree. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Degrassi is
Yeah, the
eco-friendly.
carbon footprint is much cleaner because of Degrassi.
I 100% believe that, actually. I think that's like a joke, but honestly, it really is true. And I think it really sustains the show is having those repeated tropes and those repeated and seeing how things change with the times and how things don't change.
Arthur and Caitlin, the number they do, they've done it in Kids of Degrassi Street. That number that they do.
Tell me, do you know any more about that? Because that is something that comes up later. Degrassi Kid told me a little bit about how that was in Kids of Degrassi Street with Caitlin's character. Oh, let me think if
And
I can think of
Susie,
their names. Yeah, and Susie. I don't remember their names in Kids of Degrassi Street.
Lisa Kennard, and Casey Rothfels,
I know you would know.
or Susie Rivera, Caitlin Ryan. But yeah, they did that
Yeah.
number. I'm Phyllis. I'm Fran. We're going south to get a man. And yeah,
Do you
but
know, do you have any idea why Arthur was in that position instead of Susie? Like why was
I
Arthur
have
doing the performance with Caitlin?
I have no idea. I just want to know why he's wearing a dashiki, which it seems like a tropical setting, and he's wearing
Yeah,
like a African dashiki. That threw me off.
knowing that it's a callback to Kids of Degrassi Street makes it make a little bit more sense because otherwise it was kind of really random. Like they mentioned at the talent show in the Zit Remedy, well, not the Zit Remedy yet, but the boys in the band that will eventually become the Zit Remedy are preparing for this talent show. But
Yes,
the little scene of them doing the performance, I'm like, have Caitlin and Arthur ever interacted before?
not at all. Yeah,
So I was like, interesting pairing. Why wasn't Susie in that position? I was curious if you would know.
I think maybe because she's playing a new character now, and she doesn't want to do repeat.
Gotcha. They don't want
That's
it to
that's my
be.
thinking. Yeah,
I'll take that as an answer. That's as good an answer as any until we get a chance to bother Linda Schuyler about it and be like, or Yan Moore and be like, hey, and they would be like, huh? What? Maybe Linda would know. So we will kind of jump around a little bit with talking about ourselves and our Degrassi experiences and all of that. One thing that I did want to talk about is that we met each other in real life a couple of months ago,
yes,
and it was very awesome. We met at Smoky Mountain Fan Fest. We both got to meet some Degrassi people and spend some time together with some Degrassi friends, and it was awesome. Do you have any standout memories from Smoky Mountain Fan Fest that you wanted to share?
other than meeting you in the Degrassi Discord crew,
Yeah.
having Joey or Pat Mastriana hold this and take a picture. I just thought like that was like a full circle moment.
That was the like first thing when Shannon and Emily and Dave and I were getting ready to head to the convention the first day. That was one of the first things that we
Right.
saw on Instagram when we were like on the way and we were like, "Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Like this is really happening." To see Pat holding your Funko Pop, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is really like it was just a moment of like this is real." And then getting there and
Yeah.
seeing the Degrassi people and meeting them and then getting to meet you, it was so fun. I saw you like approaching and you had the little
Oh yeah.
Degrassi Kid poster in your hand and I was like, "Oh,
Yes.
I guess that's Degrassi CSI because you had mentioned that you were going and I knew that we were going to try to meet up. I didn't know what you looked like. Didn't really have any context. So it was cool. That was kind of the meeting point of you walking up. I think you were also maybe holding your wheels in your hand probably.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a good little signifier. As long as the Degrassi people go to Smoky Mountain Fan Fest next year, I'm planning to go back. So I will bring my Lola if that's the case.
I always think of him as a good icebreaker.
It's a great icebreaker and it's very fun. I'm glad that I have the picture of me holding wheels now because it's a very cute
Thank
little
you.
whenever I'm posting about you, I can be like, "Oh, this is Degrassi CSI. Here's me and his little wheels." It's very cute. Yeah, I had a lot of fun
And you're a
meeting
tolerant
you.
person.
I
You're a
am.
tolerant
That's
person.
I know I am. That's one of the like first things that anybody ever says, and it's so funny. I guess I give short energy. I feel like when people see me online, they just assume that I'm maybe because I'm so heavily associated with Lola, people just assume that
Yeah.
I'm short and little too. I'm like, no, I'm like 5'8". I'm not like a giant, but I'm a sufficiently
Yeah.
tall person. Like I'm not little. I'm not Lola.
And shout out to Dave, Shannon,
Yeah.
Emily, and Nixon, who are part of the Degrassi Kid Discord.
Avis and
Yeah,
Caroline,
moms.
also your mom's podcast, were also there and they were fantastic. Yeah, I'm hoping in the future with more Degrassi convention things starting to happen that we can start having more in real life meetups because I think that went really well and it really
Yeah.
establishes a great rapport. Like it really makes you trust the people around you more. It humanizes everyone.
When
I
you
don't know
meet
what to
them in
say.
person, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
oh,
not behind a
you're
screen or an avatar. It's a real person.
exactly. Do you have a favorite Degrassi cast member? Are there any cast members? I know you're a fan of Neil Hope. Are there any other cast members that you particularly gravitate towards?
Duncan Waugh, Sarah Ballingal, Anais Granovsky from the original cast.
Yeah, so all your favorite
And
characters. I love
and
that.
I'm also a big Mike Lobel fan for TNG. He's like one of my favorite, even though he does
That's
despicable things. Yeah.
yeah, Jay not a great person. Mike LaBelle, great actor. Yeah, he's one that I would love to meet, and I'm sad that he didn't go to Smoky Mountain Fan Fest, but he has started going to more conventions, and I'm excited to maybe meet him one day. Are there any
Yeah,
Degrassi cast members that you haven't met that you would love to meet?
I love to meet Annie Clark or Amanda Curie.
Oh yeah, those are good ones. Those are also top of my list personally. So yeah, you went
Mhm.
to Degrassi Palooza, right? So you got a good
Yes,
chance to meet a lot of Degrassi
yeah,
people.
primarily all the original people.
Well, that's your era, so that's who
Yeah,
you'd be excited about.
Spike, Snake, the twins, Yick,
That's amazing.
Joey. Yeah, and
That's
Snake. He's definitely taller. He's definitely taller when you meet him in person. He's
he,
like,
he's he is a giant. You said I'm not a giant, and you're right, but he is a
yeah,
giant. He's very
yeah.
tall. All right, we've gotten a little bit of chatter in, just general chatter, and now I feel like we're ready to get into the episode. Let's do a quick little episode synopsis for Parents' Night, and then we're going to talk about when the episode aired, who it was written by, and who it was directed by. So, first, let's get into the synopsis. Wheels is surprised by a visit from his birth father and has to deal with his feelings about being adopted. Meanwhile, 14-year-old Spike, who is pregnant, asks Wheels how it feels to be adopted. Oh, yeah. That's gonna be in the video, whatever. Um, okay. So this episode aired April 5th, 1987, and it was written by Yan Moore and directed by Kit Hood. So the typical crew for those early episodes. You're a fan of both of those names, I would
Yes.
imagine. You know a little bit about those guys. Yeah, that's the typical crew for these early episodes. This episode was a really interesting follow-up from It's Late because
Yes.
that is the big episode of Degrassi Junior High. I was kind of curious how they were going to follow up such a big episode, and I think that this was honestly the perfect way to do it because it's still introducing something new about Wheels, and Wheels is still having his moment, but it is really related to what's happening with Spike. And even with
Yes.
sort of seeing Spike exploring her options and then seeing Mike, Wheels' dad, however you want to refer to him, sort of living out one of those options that Spike is trying to figure out if she wants to explore. I think that was the perfect way to do it into, yeah, kind of make what Spike is trying to decide very real in a way and connect those
Definitely. Yeah.
storylines. Like it's very interconnected while still letting Spike and Wheels have their separate moments. And I'm very impressed, yeah, with how these storylines are like interwoven. I really like the setup of this. Um
Yeah. It felt like an unofficial part two.
exactly. Yeah, it was a continuation, but it wasn't focusing on it in the same way. Like we weren't just still on Spike. Spike was more of like a side character, but it was still, yeah, it was still related to what Spike was going through. And I thought, yeah, that was just so well done. And I was so impressed with how they tied those in. Like you started to say before we started recording, this is really where Degrassi starts to, do you know how you phrased it? Like it really just starts to like get its legs. It starts to, I don't know.
This is when Degrassi becomes Degrassi. Like it's almost
Yes.
like the epitome, pun intended, of what Degrassi is. Joey, Snake, Wheels, Spike.
Yes. It is more what I expected when I started Degrassi Junior High. This is what I expected the show to be.
Like even me watching as a longtime fan, I have to remember. Oh wait, this doesn't really. These characters don't like Snake has more lines. It doesn't start until
Yeah.
like way in the end of season one.
Yeah, I was watching these episodes, the episodes prior, and I'm like, when is Snake gonna be like an actual character? Because he was just in the
Yeah,
background. And I was so confused because the next generation really emphasizes Joey, Caitlin, and Snake and like the Zit Remedy and these characters
yeah.
that the first like 10 episodes,
It's been the
like
build up to that.
yeah, like I remember in my Kiss Me Steph episode, I was saying like I have no idea who Stephanie K is because like my point of
Yeah.
reference, she's not talked about really in the next generation, but she's so heavily featured in those first few episodes. And it's just very
Oh
interesting
yes.
how the vibe really seems like it's shifting and the
Yeah.
show
It's
is
shift. Yeah.
finding, yeah, it's finding its legs sort of, which I feel like the first season or so of every show, it kind of takes some time for them to figure
Like
out what they're
even
going to
Joey
focus
hasn't
on.
found his signature fedora. He's wearing
Yeah,
berets, ball caps.
he's trying them all.
He doesn't really come into this yet.
I feel like he was maybe wearing a fedora in this episode. I may be wrong, but I feel like I maybe saw him sporting a fedora, but he
Oh
definitely
yeah,
hasn't found in the Zit Remedy, if we could talk about kind of things
yeah,
finding their
yeah. They
place, the
don't
Zit
even have a
Remedy,
name. They don't even.
yeah, they've got Snake and the Charmers, which I think honestly, that's kind of a good name. I out of all the names,
Yeah.
I think that's the one. I found it very interesting. I Degrassi does this so well where they will have one character have it dealing with a very serious thing, Wheels, and then in this
Yes.
on the side we have Snake and Joey having this little rivalry about the names of the band and wanting to name the bands after themselves and being like Snake and the Sneeze, Joey and the Joysticks, or whatever the names were.
Joy Buzz.
Joey and the Buzz, what Joy Buzz, Joy, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. They were silly. Did you have a favorite of those names? Because I think Snake and the Charmers is probably mine. That has a nice visual to it.
Yeah. I like Snake and the Snaps.
Snake and the Snaps. I like that. I think if I were to name the band after one of those members, I would probably choose Snake, although
Yeah.
I don't think Joey would stand for that. So I'll
No, his ego is too much.
Oh, he can't handle it. It was very fun to see Joey and Snake kind of be at odds in the background.
And Wheels doesn't care. He just wants to play.
Yeah, Wheels is like, yeah, yeah, okay, anyway. And yeah, I found that very cute and very like well balanced. Degrassi really does always have a really good balance of the serious and the lighthearted, and they again succeeded in that. By the end of this episode, they still have not said the words Zit Remedy. So
No. Or even
I'm
sung their
curious.
iconic song.
No, I thought that was going to happen this episode. I felt like I was getting like a little tease, like they had their instruments and they were coming together, and it almost looked like we were going to get a performance of Everybody Wants Something.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it yet, and I'm waiting for that moment. I've only seen I've seen like little clips and I've heard it, but I haven't seen it in the context of the show outside of when they reference it in Next Generation when they sing it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have my first experience with Everybody Wants Something, the iconic,
Yeah.
apparently very repetitive song, as I've
It's
heard. Apparently
very
it, well, I feel like once I've heard it a million times, I will be like, oh, I can't imagine a time when I haven't seen it. Because
yeah.
from what I know, they are not sparing with including the song.
Yeah, it's not like Maya Madeline where she has like 30, 40 songs this season. It's just that one
Although
song.
they did not, they in the season where they had Not Okay, with Not
Yeah.
Okay, her one song, they did repeat that one into the ground. It's a good song, but they played it like every
Yeah.
episode, and I'm like, oh my gosh, can we hear any other song other than Not Okay?
But I do prefer Maya over Jenna's music.
I do prefer Maya over Jenna's music, and I prefer anything over Becky and Jonah's music. I'm so sorry. They're not my jam. I don't like them. If we can just get that out of the way. I their music is
How about
so
Whisper Hug?
Whisper Thug. Whisper
I
Hug.
mean Whisper
Uh
Hug.
I like Whisper Hug. I'm a little partial to Whisper Hug. If we're doing like a ranking, I would say I like Maya's music. I like Whisper Hug.
Yeah.
I like
Downtown Sasquatch.
Downtown Sasquatch. I was talking about this the other day with Degrassi Kid. I don't know if I like that many of their songs. Like they
Yeah.
were on the show for a long period of time. Oh, Studes. Studes is up there. They
Oh,
had a lot
Stu's
of good songs. Studes I think would be top of the list, but yeah,
Shared
we met,
Custody.
yeah, Shared Custody, House Arrest, like Studes had bops.
Yeah. Or
Zit Remedy
Janie and the
apparently.
Studs.
Janie and the Studs. Yeah.
She studs, yeah.
So yeah, we
And he
met
becomes a
Zit
roadie. Peter
Remedy.
becomes a roadie.
He does. We met the what will eventually be the Zit Remedy in this episode, which was fun.
I have a fun fact.
Let's hear it.
Amanda Steptoe is adopted in real life.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
they use that, yeah. So they use some of that for the storyline.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. Is that explored? Because I haven't gotten a chance to explore Degrassi Talks at all because it has spoilers and I can't watch it until after Degrassi High. Is that explored at all in Degrassi Talks that you know of?
I think real briefly, but yeah.
Okay, because I know she does like teen pregnancy stuff more.
Mhm.
in Degrassi Talks. But interesting. That's
Yeah.
a really fun fact.
Yeah, she's adopted. Yeah,
Do you remember how you felt when you watched this episode for the first time?
I do. Mhm. I just thought it was touching the way Wheels told Spike, if you ever have any questions, you can always talk to me. Like that just melted my
Yeah.
heart. I'm like, oh.
Wheels
He's
Wheels is so sweet. I love him so much. And I think he's so good at like being comforting and also like setting boundaries when he needs to. Like when it came to his biological dad coming into his life, he like really was in touch with how he felt about it. And I think it came from we saw his home life is very healthy. His parents are very good at like communicating with him and talking with him and validating him and comforting him. So I'm really glad that he was able to apply that and yeah, set those boundaries with his dad of saying like, is it okay if I don't see you for a while? I think is kind of where he left it at the end of the episode, where he didn't cut it off completely, but he was like, I basically the sentiment was like, I need some time to process this, and I'm really proud of him and impressed with the fact that he could like identify that within himself.
yeah, he shows maturity like for such a young age.
He's a baby and he's
Yeah.
so emotionally mature. Like I was definitely not that emotionally mature. I don't know if I'm that emotionally mature now. Like, and he's just very impressive to me. And I think he was a great sounding board for Spike also. So I'm glad that they were able to have that moment and that connection.
And I have a question for you.
Yeah.
After all these years of seeing old Spike, what do you think of young Spike? I mean Snake.
I
I'm sorry.
Snake or Spike, because I can give my opinion
Snake,
on either
Snake.
one. I was gonna
Oh
say I can
yeah,
give
but
my
no, I
opinion on
mean,
both.
yeah, that she applies too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because for Spike, I'll start with Spike because it's shorter because I think it kind of sucks that she really doesn't get any time in Degrassi The Next Generation. Like
yeah,
she's cut really short and really given like a small role in Degrassi The Next Generation in comparison to like I really am really enjoying her character in this. And it makes me feel like she was kind of given a disservice when with like
mhm.
Spike's character was kind of given a disservice. I think when it comes to Snake, I love baby Snake. I love getting to see more of him. I it makes me love Stefan Brogren. It makes me love later Snake so much more to see him as baby Snake. I every time he's on screen, I am like he's I love him. Like I already loved Stefan Brogren just from growing up seeing him as Snake, but this just adds a whole other level of affection for the character and the actor and all of that. And I love him. He's great. I can't wait to see more of him.
Because in real life, Stacey Mustician had a crush on Stefan Brogan, which she's talked about.
I he's so cute. Like
Yeah,
he's so handsome, so cute. I love his hair. I get
and I
it.
love his
I get
style,
it.
his wacky graphic T-shirts.
Yeah, he was wearing
Yeah,
some like yellow pants with like some pattern on them. I noticed
yeah,
he's got
he's
an
got
interesting
some
style.
style.
He had some yeah,
Yeah,
there was an episode earlier where he was wearing like these cool like above the knee shorts too. Like
yeah,
he's got a very interesting fashion sense. And
sense of
I
style. Yeah,
yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him as he grows up because yeah, he's already yeah, looks really cool and has a lot of like really cool fashion. And some I've seen some pictures of older Snake, and yeah,
yes.
his hair looks so cool. Like I have a lot of affection for, and I think you can kind of see that in the characters that are my favorite characters, like Lola and
Yes,
Imogen, and like all of those characters. I love a character that has like a strong sense of style and like a quirky look about them, and just like changes things up a lot. So I think
yes.
Snake and Spike are definitely going to end up really topping my list because they're and I just love the costume design in general of this era. That's
Oh,
why I
Judy
was
Shiner,
so
man.
Judy Shiner. Ugh. That was one of the I will talk about it every single time she's brought up. That was one of the best experiences with meeting a Degrassi person because I saw
Yeah.
her. It was like right after I had edited her podcast that she was at Degrassi Kid's birthday party and I saw her walk in and I just lost. I was like, I remember I like slapped Degrassi Kid's knee like that's Judy Shiner. And then as soon as it was when at Linda Schuyler and Steven Stone's house when we were like in a circle all talking. So I had to like sit and wait. And then as soon as that broke away, there were so many like interesting people in the room and so much going on. I had made a beeline immediately for Judy Shiner and just talked her ear off for like 10, 15 minutes. Just like, I was like, I need to tell you like how much of an inspiration you are and how much you inspire me. And just, ugh, that is like my dream. And I think she's so cool. And I just, yeah, I have so much respect and love for Judy Shiner. So, and I know you're a
Yeah.
fan as well. So, sorry, I just every time Judy Shiner
No,
comes up, I have to talk about her for like 2 minutes
no,
straight because I
it's
just
all
get
good,
so
man.
I get so excited.
I like when Snake tells Wheels, and we're gonna be fabulous. I just love
Yes,
that line.
I loved that. I that stood out to me as well. I was like, I love that line. Yeah, that line stood out to me as well. I'm like, fabulous is a very interesting choice of word, and that I feel like it informs the character, and I love that. These characters are really starting to become real to me and really starting to like with
Yes,
10 plus episodes we've gotten a chance to marinate in the world and like get to know them and see them in a couple different situations, and I am like absolutely falling in love with these characters, and I'm so excited that I have several seasons to go because I'm already so bought in to these characters, and yeah, I'm loving it.
I have a question for you.
Absolutely.
Did you pick up on Wheels' dad has tickets for a concert in a certain place?
Hamilton. Oh, I was about to. I had my Hamilton shirt on before I changed into this one, so I was about to show you and be like, my Hamilton. Yes, and that's
Yeah,
where the Dead Hand performed too. So yeah, I noticed that immediately.
that's what I like, that world building,
Yeah, it's nice to have the repeated.
that continuity.
Yeah, the repeated locations.
I was like, I wonder if she picks up on that where
I
the concert is.
did
Okay.
Hamilton. I picked up on it, and that was the first. Is that the first mention of the gourmet scum, which I know becomes
Yes, it is.
a later. Yeah, you've got a little gourmet scum thing behind you.
Yeah.
I'm
Even
curious to
James had.
know.
That's why Gourmet Santa. That's where it's from. Gourmet Santa on
Oh,
Discord.
I didn't put that together. That makes so much sense. Yeah, I'm excited as I see more of this generation. I'm getting more of the references. I'm like, oh, I didn't know what they were talking about. So yeah, this was the first mention of Gourmet Scum, and they're playing a show in Hamilton, which I like to imagine is a Hamilton reference, even though it's not.
A lot of this episode is a setup for something that happens in season 3, which is my favorite episode. So this is like a
Really?
build, like this is like setting the putting the
Is it a
pieces
setup
on
for
the
your favorite episode?
yes,
There we
featuring
go.
Wheels' dad.
Featuring
Yeah,
Wheels' dad.
a lot of what
Okay.
happened in this episode will come into play 2 seasons from now,
That
and you
is
just have to wait.
fascinating.
It's one of my favorite, one of my favorite episodes.
Oh,
But
I'm
this is all set up. So watching this is like fun to see. Oh, these are like the little seeds are being planted, and like
yeah,
in the seasons they're gonna start to grow.
can't wait to look back on now when I'm there and to be like, oh, I had no idea what was to
Yes,
come. Because
but I won't
yeah,
say anymore.
don't spoil it. I know I will say, and I don't want to spoil because I have some listeners, like including my friend Taylor, who are watching along with me for the first time. So I don't want to go into too many
Yes.
spoilers, but I do know that something happens with Wheels' like family dad situation. I know that there's some I've been very careful to block out getting any details about it, but I do know that something
Yeah.
happens that's part of his and that he changes his personality a bit. Like I know that he goes
Oh
through some
yes.
trauma.
Mhm.
So I can kind of make assumptions and guesses about what could happen, but I don't know and I'm excited to know when we get there. If you were introducing someone to Degrassi Junior High, do you think you would recommend this episode as a starting point, or do you think you would kind of recommend they go back a little bit? Do you think this is a good?
1000%. I think yeah.
I think if I were to, just from what I have watched so far, if I were to want to get somebody into this, I would probably start at It's Late. I think that there have been a lot of really
Yes.
valuable moments and character building things that have happened in the episodes prior. But I think if I were wanting to get somebody like locked in,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
It's Late. And I think if I were wanting to show like what Degrassi is about, I would show them It's Late in this episode because this is really where yeah, like you said, like Degrassi is becoming Degrassi. Like they are really showing what it's about. Like they're going there before going there. Decades before going there is a
It's been a
phrase that we
slow roller
use.
coaster ride, but you're getting up on the grassy roller coaster, and you're getting ready, and you're going.
I think that roller coaster, the building up is very important. And that's where like the
Yes,
next generation was really successful. They built things over time. The first season or so of the next generation, nothing, I mean, the first episode, yes, but like other than that, other than Emma and all of that, like there isn't a lot of really crazy drama, and it's built
you're
up
just getting to know
to,
them.
yeah, you're just getting to know the kids, and then sort of similar to, it seems like with the junior high, season 3 is really where it's kicks off. I don't know about junior
Yes,
high, but my impression, and I feel like in general with TV shows, I've found that like long form TV shows is where like season 3 is really where stuff gets to where it's going in my
yeah.
experience. Do you watch a lot of other like teen dramas, or did you watch a lot of other teen dramas, or was Degrassi sort of unique for you?
Uh, I was loyal to Degrassi, but I did watch other things like Saved by the Bell, Wonder Years. I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
All these,
That's
yeah.
okay. No, I'm kind of similar where I watched some of the shows that existed around the same time, but it was never, my passion never lied in those shows in the same way that it did in Degrassi. I've always been very loyal. I wouldn't call myself like a teen drama fan. I would call myself like a Degrassi fan, and Degrassi just happens to be a teen drama. Like I don't think I'm loyal
Yeah,
to the genre as much as I'm loyal to this particular
Degrassi.
show. Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
we're in the
because it's a
same
good show that
boat.
just happened. Yeah. Mhm.
Good show. Yeah, it's such a good show.
Like, is Euphoria even a kid show? Because all the kids look like they're 30. I mean,
No,
kids.
Euphoria, yeah, Euphoria is not something that I would ever show to children. I watched
No.
Euphoria and I was uncomfortable as
Yes.
a 20 something year old who has experienced things in life. I was still like, this is a lot. This is very gratuitous. And yeah, Degrassi, I think people drawing comparisons, like there's no
I hate, yeah.
comparison in my opinion between Degrassi and Euphoria other than the fact that they're set in high school. In general, Degrassi is just a league apart from other
Yes.
teen dramas, but
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
do you see any parallels? We talked a little bit earlier about like the Joey and Toby parallels a little bit, but are there any other parallels between this episode and later episodes or seasons of the show
Oh,
that you can
yes.
think of? Yeah, let's hear them.
Um, Derek and funny name, Derek and Liberty.
Yes, I was thinking that as well.
No, yeah, that came to mind when Liberty comes to Derek and like they're having that conversation and stuff.
I 100% agree, and I thought of that when Spike was suggested to go to Wheels about this. And it was interesting to me because as somebody who goes into this with as little context as possible, I didn't know if Wheels knew that he was adopted until that point. I was sort of waiting to know if that was something that he already knew or if it was something that was going to be revealed. I'm not sure if it was to my knowledge, it wasn't revealed or mentioned before this point
No,
that he was adopted, right?
no,
Okay, so
that was
I
just his
knew
parents.
the only reason that I knew going into this episode was unfortunately because I had to prepare for recording this podcast and I got spoiled knowing, well, I think I actually did know. I forget, but I like had some prior knowledge that he was adopted, but I didn't know that he was going to go and talk to Spike about it. So
Yeah,
it was very interesting. I didn't know if it was going to be a situation where Wheels was finding out that he was adopted and then they were going to have that conversation because of like the phone calls and stuff. I was like, oh, I don't know if it's a secret. It was just unclear to me upon my first watch of it. So it was interesting to sort of see it play out. And I agree that the Liberty and Derek, which Derek, yeah, you're right. That is,
yeah,
hey, wait.
yeah.
Is that intentional?
I don't
Wait,
know. Maybe
that might be
you
intentional.
just picked up on that.
I just picked up on it. I heard you say funny name and I didn't. Ah, wow. Okay. Yeah, Derek. Okay, so
Well,
just for the listen.
because he's always called
Yeah.
Wheels because you
Yeah, I was
forget
gonna
he's
say just
Derek.
for the, yeah, for the listeners if it's not clear what I just discovered, Derek the character in the Next Generation who is adopted, it has the same name as Derek Wheeler, who is adopted in this episode. Mind blown. I feel.
There's also another crazy Degrassi theory regarding
Yeah,
that, but
let's hear
we
it.
can do that later.
Oh, is it
It
spoiler?
has,
Does it have spoilers?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Never mind. Never mind. I have to remember.
No, you're okay. I'm very curious to hear. That's something that I love though, is that there's so much still for me to learn and find
And it
out
has
later
something.
down the
It has something to
line.
do with schools out. It has
I'm
something to do with
excited.
schools out. That's all I'm gonna say.
I
And the iconic line,
I feel like I have a guess of
and
do
it
people
has to do
think
with a certain iconic line.
do people think I'm like covering my mouth to the microphone as if that's a secret. Do people think that Derek is the baby of Tessa and Joey? Is that is that the theory? Okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
That's not
some.
that much of a
Yeah,
spoiler because I know that he
yeah.
was fucking
Okay.
Tessa Campanelli. So I know that's one of the few things. I love that theory and I love Degrassi fan theories. I know I wanted to ask you, are there any other Degrassi fan theories that you really believe in? I know you're very fact-based and very like, in my opinion, you come across very like, you love knowing the facts about Degrassi
Oh
and
yeah.
love knowing the history, but do you subscribe to a lot of fan theories? I'm sure you know of a lot of them, but do you
Um,
believe in them? Are you a Degrassi
some
conspiracy
some of them.
theorist?
No, no. It's fun. No, I try. No, but I like hearing. I
Yeah.
love hearing. Yeah.
I mean, like I have my theory about Vula having a crush on Stephanie, for example. Like, I
Oh
think you
yes.
maybe said you might believe that, or you see where it's coming from. What do you feel?
Yeah. Or even LD and Lucy.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one that Degrassi Kid loves is LD and Lucy, which I'm excited to see that play out because I don't know. I've only seen a little bit of both of those characters. So,
And then Miss Avery. Yeah.
yeah, Miss Avery.
And it's funny how sometimes Raditch is like Ms. Avery.
That's something that I noticed that I wanted to bring up that I wasn't sure if I was going to. He puts that emphasis on the Ms. so hard every single time. They're like, this
Yeah.
woman is not married. She is
I know.
not married. They want you to know, like, not Miss. Or sorry, not Mrs. Ms. Like,
Yeah.
it's so I feel like hear the emphasis so hard
Yeah.
every single
He
time.
does it like yeah.
It's like Ms. It's very funny. I love that you noticed that as well.
Wheel's dad. There's certain casting about Wheel's dad.
Yes. Degrassi Kid had a question about that one. Did you want to share the fun fact about Wheels' dad, the Mike Nelson character in the casting of him?
I think it's inspired because in the Kids of the Degrassi Street, they are brothers.
Yeah, that's what I thought was the case, and I find that very fascinating. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like Sean and Tracker. They had a very, very similar chemistry. I mean,
Yes.
similar relationship. So he was the
Interesting.
OG Tracker.
He was the OG tracker. Oh, I watched that's the
Yes.
episode Griff Gets a Hand. Is that the episode title?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I would not have recognized the actor from that, but I have seen that episode. I think that's very
But yeah,
interesting
that's
that they
him.
repeated the actor and made him his dad this time.
Yes.
Speaking of, I noticed his name is Mike Nelson.
Yes.
You know what name that is very similar to? Spike
Spike Nelson.
Nelson. What what is going on
I don't
there?
know.
That feels so it has to be intentional, right? Like Mike Nelson, Spike Nelson. I feel like it's definitely to the whole point of his character, not the whole point, but a good point of his character, I think was to show kind of like a possible reality future for
Yes.
Spike. But is
Yeah.
it like that feels so I don't know, there's just such an interesting choice to make it the same last name. Are they secretly related? Do you have a fan theory
I don't
about
think
that?
so. Um,
No.
I think that'd be too on the nose. I don't know. I just think
I agree.
no, that's interesting. Yeah. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah, it's just very interesting that there are so many last names and so many names in the world in general, and they
Yeah.
chose the same last name and a first name that literally rhymes with
Yeah,
Spike. I don't know. I heard that and I was
Spike
immediately
Nelson.
like, Mike Nelson. Like, huh?
Spike. Yeah.
I just had to bring that up because that immediately caught my interest. I'm like, that I was curious if you had a theory or a thought on that, but you're just as confused as me, which I kind of love. I kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
love
just as baffled.
that it's a mystery that has technically existed for since this episode came out. There's no theory or reason or rhyme behind it. It's just interesting. I love that. Do you have a standout, memorable moment from this episode?
When they're at the diner and they're sipping on the milkshakes.
Yes, that was the one that you
Oh,
posted a
that's
screenshot of.
Heredity.
Yes, I thought, yes, and I
Yeah,
also thought it was so sweet. It was very interesting that they made Wheels's dad in a band and have Wheels have an interest in music. That like, yeah, it's heredity. The fact that it's his interests
yeah.
are passed down even through like DNA basically. I found that fascinating. I I loved this episode. I There are so many things to love about this episode and I think it was so well written.
How did you like the OG Tyler Swift neck friendship bracelet
Yes,
necklace?
you sent me, yeah, you sent me the picture of that and I'm like I hadn't watched
That's
the
what I
episode at
immediately.
that point. Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, I wonder." I'm like I'm looking forward to seeing what this is. And yeah, he had the OG little Taylor Swift friendship bracelet necklace with the
Do you have
baby
any?
thing.
I mean, not Tyler's.
I
Do you have any of those?
I do. I don't have any on right now, which is
Oh,
surprising. I usually have a nice little stack of bracelets, but not right now.
I would commission you to make a Nelson one.
I would gladly do that. I have so many beads. I For the trivia event in Toronto for the Degrassi documentary, I made a bunch of friendship bracelets inspired by Degrassi to pass out to people. And
That's awesome.
I think I gave the rest of them to Jocelyn, Degrassi Kid, to like pass out in their Patreon packages. So I have no idea if they still have any of those, but I know I gave a bunch of those out to people at the trivia contest. And maybe down the line when that documentary comes out, I know they were filming me giving those out. We'll see if that's part of it down the line. I'm very excited to see that.
I also have another point to make.
Yeah, go for it.
Christina Prosperi, Imogene, she made a
Yeah.
post about Degrassi Junior High once, and she referenced this episode as being like an American Apparel ad.
I Because of like the way that they were dressed, like the fashion in
Yeah,
it.
like the bold color. Yeah, the bold colors, and like
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that. I love hearing the later generation actors
reflect
talking
on yeah,
about, yeah, to reflect and watch it. For example,
yeah.
the actress who played Rasha, Dahlia, when I met her in person, she talked to me about how she grew up watching Degrassi Junior High, and I would love to get her on the podcast for season 2. I would
Do it,
love that
do it.
because
Do
she said that she
it.
was a huge fan. She said that she was a huge fan, and she said that like when she was auditioning for the show, she was rewatching a lot of Degrassi Junior High and like reflecting on it and how much of an honor it was to be a part of Degrassi after growing up with it. So I absolutely love hearing the old cast talking about it. And I would love, yeah, I would be curious what would be your like dream guests for Degrassi Schools in season 2? Are there any ones that you would love to hear for on my podcast? Are there any actors that you would love to hear?
Stacy Mistician
That would be
or
amazing.
Pat Mastriani or
Yeah.
Colleen Lamb. I know you know Colleen Lamb.
I do.
Um,
I have actually talked to her a little bit about her coming on. I don't know what episode. I know there's an episode that she has a line in, like a big
mhm.
line in. I don't know when it is because I'm so
Yeah,
like it's hard because it's hard to plan things because I am trying so hard to not get spoiled. But I did talk to her a little bit about coming on the podcast at some point. I think that she would be really fun. So, yeah,
and my
season
friend
2.
Broomheads would be a good guest. Katie Broomheads.
I will have to reach
Yeah,
out to her. Yeah.
she likes the new stuff as well as the old stuff, so she's well versed in the Degrassi
I've got to
world.
connect with her. I think I follow
Okay,
her, but I've got to connect. Yeah, I'm going to start planning season 2 soon. I've got a few names up in the air, but I haven't booked anything yet, so I'm excited
and
for
Becky
that.
Baker. Remember, I
Oh,
remember what she
Sarah,
said.
yeah, Sarah Fisher. Yes. Sarah Fisher. She gave me a cameo and she was very excited and told me to hit her up. Like, okay. I'm curious how much of if she's seen Degrassi Junior High. I would love to
Yes.
know. Do you know if she has?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious as well.
All right. We've gotten through a good deal of what I wanted to talk about. I'm happy to talk about if you have any other notes that you wanted to discuss. Otherwise, I have a few questions from some of our friends that wanted to ask you a few things.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends. We've got a question from Dave who asked, what is your headcanon for Arthur and Caitlin's talent show act? What do you think is the story behind that? How did they end up getting together and working together? Do you have a little fan theory? Because we talked a little bit earlier about how random that connection was. They hadn't really talked. Do you have any idea where how they might have come together?
My head canon is sort of like Degrassi, like someone got sick, and like you know how Toby had to step in for the dance
There
for
you go.
Emma.
Maybe
I think
yeah, maybe
the
Susie
same
got
thing might have
sick.
happened.
Susie
Yes.
got sick.
So he's a precursor to Toby, so he had to step in for Susie
Yes.
who is sick. That's my canon.
I accept that as canon. I think that makes complete sense. And I think Arthur would be the type that would overhear like Caitlin being like, what am I gonna do? Susie's sick. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yes.
I have this performance. And Arthur would be like, I'll do it. I can 100% see that. So I accept that as canon. Thank you, Dave, for that question. We have another question from Dave that is about your travel experiences because you have done some fun little Toronto excursions. I believe you call them pilgrimages.
Yes,
Um,
Degrassi pilgrimage.
Degrassi pilgrimage. When did you make your first pilgrimage to the Toronto Degrassi locations? And what was the experience like for you? That was from Dave, who's curious.
2013, and it was awesome.
Yeah, do you
Like
remember like how you felt? Was it what was the first sight that you ever saw from Degrassi in real life?
Degrassi Junior High.
That's a good one to start
The
with.
original Degrassi Junior High, pre condos, pre development. It
I
looked like it
was
did in the show. It had the gymnasium. Yes,
Yeah,
it
I was
looked
just gonna
just like
ask because when I went, it was one little bit. It was not all that
yes,
it used to be. So when you went, it was
yeah, the
still all there.
yes, the iconic, yeah, the gym and everything, and
I'm so
the
glad you got to see
surrounding
that.
area. Yeah, so that was awesome.
I'm glad that they've been able to preserve the like front steps, but the
Yeah,
rest of it is
it looks different.
gone.
Yeah,
So, which Degrassi site was the most exciting or emotional for you to visit?
Degrassi Junior.
There you go.
Just on them being on those front steps and like for the first time, because I'm one of those people when I watch a show and I see a character leave off screen, I want to know what the geographics are. Is that weird
Yeah.
of me?
No, that's not weird at all.
I want to see what I can't see on the TV, if that makes
Yeah.
sense when I'm
No,
watching.
that makes
Like it,
100% sense. Yeah, you're seeing it in this box and you want to see what exists outside of that box. So that makes
yeah,
100% sense.
and like even behind the scenes, like for like I know there's a Tim Hortons by the Degrassi set that's like in the area, and I know there's a 7-Eleven by Degrassi Junior High, and in my mind, I'm just thinking like they walk back and forth between break. Like my is that
Yeah.
weird? My mind works like that. Like I want to
No,
know what I can't see on, so I have to go in person to experience, and it brings the show to another level.
absolutely. When you've been there, it completely changes and you can see like when you're watching it, when I've watched it, even from going to the Degrassi The Next Generation set, which was gated off
Mhm.
and I couldn't really see it. Even
Yes.
just seeing those bits from a distance and seeing like the Panther mural and all of that, I have such a keener eye when I'm watching those seasons and those episodes now because I've seen what it
Mhm.
looks like in real life. I'm like, oh, I actually know like geographically where that is in relation to that and all of that. I'm only sad that I didn't get to see when like all of the sets were up back then, like when they had because to my
Yes, I
knowledge they
know.
had like a little cul-de-sac of just like
Yeah,
all the sets, like the dot and all of that. And I would have loved to see it during that prime.
like Little Mistakes or Lola's Cantina
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, I really wish that I had gotten to see that. And like Degrassi Kid loves to brag about the fact that they got to see they were in the Hollingsworth mansion, like the set for the Hollingsworth
Yes.
mansion. And I'm like, I would love to see just like, yeah, like you said, like the surrounding areas and the parts that weren't shown on screen because when they're filming, they're showing like like very specific little corners and it's typically
Yeah,
from like the same angles every time. So it's so cool to see just like the full scope of the set and the location and all of that. So I completely, you
like I
are
want to
not weird
experience
at
it in
all.
real D. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you want
Okay,
to
thank
be,
you.
yeah, you want to be like, you want to be like you are one of the actors on the set and you're experiencing what they went through. I completely get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm glad that you have gotten that experience. And how many times have you gone to Toronto since that 2013 trip?
Um, every year except 2020 and 2021 for obvious reasons, which I won't
Yeah.
go into, and something I like to forget about. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we
those two
just
years
forget
I was
those years.
predisposed. Let's just say I was predisposed.
That
But
makes sense.
I try to go every year as much as I can, which is maybe obsessive, and
No, I
I'm just a
would if
rabbit.
I
I'm just a
could.
rabid Degrassi fan. Yeah.
I would if I could. I will, the next time I have an opportunity to go to Toronto, I 100% will. Like, I don't know the next
Mhm.
time that I have, but the next time that I have the ability to, I will, and I will really enjoy. I'll have to get a list from you of the different locations that I can visit because I've seen some of them, but I know that there are some that you've been to that I don't think I've gotten to see yet. So I'll get a little list from you.
Each year I try to shoot up for a goal of someplace I haven't went. Like one year I was trying to find where the Ice Hounds played that,
Yeah.
and I found like the sports place where they practiced or had their games and stuff. So I like different parts of Toronto that I
Yeah, and you said
like to
that
find.
you're still trying to look for the intersection where Peter was having his like breakdown in I think the
Yeah.
episode is Just Can't Get Enough where he's on
Like I
substances
would
on drugs.
I promise you, Evie, I would get a TikTok and recreate that scene. Just if I could find that scene, I would go on TikTok and recreate
You
that
would
just
yeah. You don't
if I
even
could
have
find it.
TikTok, but you would make a TikTok just
Yeah.
so that you could
Of
make a
me,
video. You freaking out in the
I
middle
get
of
a
the
white t-shirt.
street.
I'll just get a plain white t-shirt and hey, chair custody, chair custody. I would totally
Iconic.
do that.
No, that would be so iconic.
Then he had the Above the Dot Club with.
Yeah.
Then
Have
he had the
you?
Above the with Fritz Helder and the Phantoms and
Yes.
like these rays, and then the.
I have an above the dot poster right behind my computer. I wish I could show it to you, but I can't. I mean, I can
Yeah,
take a picture of it later, but I've got an above the
yeah.
dot. I'm literally looking at it right behind my computer right now. So I love that. Do you have, I know you have a good amount of Degrassi merch. Do you have a favorite piece of Degrassi merch? Is it Wheels?
Um,
I feel like Wheels is the most obvious
probably,
answer, but
yeah, probably Wheels for
do you have,
because cast members have hold it.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
And I've got my
I
Lola. Lola is at the top of my list of my favorite pieces of Degrassi merch now because it has such a fun story behind it too, and just great memory. And I feel so special every time I look at her because, yeah, you got this for me, and it makes me think of you, and it makes me remember that I have awesome friends,
oh,
which I love. Yeah,
can I ask you a question? Oh,
absolutely. Any question you want, go for it.
um, so what have your interactions been with Amanda Curie, the actress? Like, have you ever messaged her or
I
talked to her or met her? Or
she
wasn't
I've
she?
never
Did you ever
met
meet?
her. I didn't get a chance to
Well,
meet
wasn't she at?
her. She was not at the
But you're
holiday
close.
party, but she was at the Hall of Fame and then she was at the book launch party that Jocelyn went to like a year before. But and then she was at the Hall
So
of
it's like
Fame
two
or
ships
the Walk of
passing in the
Fame.
night.
I know, yeah. Her and Annie Clark are two that I am surprised that I haven't gotten a chance to meet. But both of them have both Annie Clark and Amanda Arcuri have like liked a bunch of my comments and will like typically on Amanda's
Oh,
TikTok, she'll like my comments when I post on her posts. And
oh.
yeah, we're distant and I would
But
love
she's
to
definitely aware of you.
she's
Okay,
aware of me and yeah, she commented
okay,
on the post of the Funko Pop. So
yeah.
she knows about that. But yeah, she hasn't followed me or anything like that. So that's a dream one day is to
Mhm.
get to meet
Like
Amanda.
if I was at that Linda Schuyler party, I would say, Jamie Block, get out your cell phone now and tell Amanda to come here right
Yeah, text
this
her.
minute.
I know,
No.
for real. Like I might have to next time. If I go to another party and Amanda is not there and like Jamie is there, for example, I may have to be like, can you like message her and just say hi? Like, yeah, she is like top of my list of Degrassi cast members that I would love to meet, but don't know when or how that's ever gonna happen. We'll see. It's a dream.
I almost want to get my friend to commission a Lola for her to give it to her in person because I think that's something she should have.
Yeah, she would love it. She was so excited to see it. I She
I
didn't DM me about it, but in the comments she was very excited about it. I
Yeah.
could tell. So yeah, I would love to meet Amanda one day, but I have unfortunately not gotten that chance. But one day, I'm really
Mhm.
hoping. I have a couple more
Okay.
questions from our friends. We have a few questions from James. James asks, "What are your favorite Wheels episodes? Do you have you've kind of mentioned like this one and then the season 3 later on one. Are there
Taking
any
Off,
other
parts 1 and 2, season 3. That's the one. The same one, Taking Off.
taking off? Okay. So that's your Wheels episodes?
Favorite Wheels episode, favorite DJH episode.
All of the above. Awesome. Yeah, I can't
And
wait to get to
yeah.
that episode. And I'll have to have you on for that one. At this point, like it's locked in. It'll be a while from
Okay.
now because I take forever to get to it'll be a while, but I'll be happy to
No,
have you on.
yeah.
James asked, "What do you think of the deleted scene of Wheels and mother and child reunion?" I know
I
this ventures
I
into
wish it was
spoiler
in the
territory. What were you gonna say?
I wish it was in the original cut of the episode.
There you go.
Because how are you going to mention that they mentioned him in one of the first scenes and then they cut it out the meeting.
Yeah.
Have you seen that meeting
I
where he apologized?
saw it forever ago. Like I've seen it, but I
Okay.
didn't really have context for so I didn't really it didn't stick with me because I don't
Okay.
know what's going on with it. So
I just felt it was I just wish it was in the original cut of the episode because it aired in the Canada but not in the US.
it's interesting. Do you know
And
why
I
that
think that
was? Do you know?
maybe for time or they think the new audience won't really haven't maybe seen Schools Out so that it won't it because it's mostly about the new kids so I can see why they did that but yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to appeal to a fresh new audience. Well, yeah, and I think that's maybe where the next generation kind of failed with
Mhm.
they didn't which they were trying to appeal to the younger audience, so it makes sense, but then it really made those older characters not get their dues and it really felt
Yeah.
I don't know, seeing Joey in this and then seeing Joey in the next generation, I'm like, they did him wrong. They did him,
You
in
know,
my opinion, they did him wrong. Like he's
the fun
not.
is gone. His wardrobe. Look at his wardrobe in TNG. It's just so drab and gray and
Yeah,
boring. I know he's an adult now, but damn, have some.
yeah, adults can wear color.
Cool.
Adults can have fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be wearing the Hawaiian t-shirts and all of that to
yeah,
still be keeping the
yeah,
energy of Joey Jeremiah alive. They just yeah, they like killed his wife and just made him so depressed and boring and upset all the
yeah.
time, and I don't like it. I think they did him
And he made
dirty.
Craig pay rent. He made his
Yeah,
stepson pay rent.
I know. He was like, "Hey, you have money. I'm gonna make you pay to live here now." Yeah, I'm a little bit of a
Yeah,
Joey next generation hater. I like him in this era so far.
hmm
He can be a little bit this
yeah,
era so far with Joey, I feel like he kind of fits what they need him to fit. Like he
yeah,
can be antagonistic when he needs to be antagonistic and supportive when he needs to be supportive. He just kind of is a chameleon in a way. So I don't
yeah,
know. Versus, yeah, Joey is just in Next Generation is just so one note and just
yeah.
complains
Craig,
all the
you're grounded.
time. Yeah. Oh my
Craig,
gosh. Wait. That was such a good impression. Stop. That sounded just like him. That was scary. That was
no,
good.
Craig, no, no, you're grounded. No, give me right now. I'm sorry, I just watch it so
That's
much.
so good. No, I'm in shock because I'm like, you sound exactly like Pat Mastriani.
No.
I didn't know that's a good secret talent. I love that. And I might call upon you to do your Joey Jeremiah impression in the future because I did not know that. Did you even know that you had that in you? Have you practiced that?
No, no, it just comes out because I watch it so much.
You killed it. Um, we have a couple more questions from James. They asked, what did you feel about the way that they finally did bring back Wheels in TNG? So we've kind of talked about this territory, but with Wheels, how do you feel about how they did him?
In my opinion, more Wheels is good Wheels. Like they can't bring him back enough. If I had my way, he'd be in every episode.
I
But
feel
yeah,
that.
yeah, I could thought maybe he could be a custodian at Degrassi or something like to show he's trying to build his way back up from
I
redemption
like I
or
like
something, or
that.
just you know, I just
He
wanted more of a presence, even if it's the episode's not about him, just to see him on screen or
I
pouring
agree, and
coffee at the dot.
I think that that would work very well because I've seen him so far, like with Spike in this episode, be a really good like sounding board and support system.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I know that he gets into some legal trouble and has some issues later in life that I
yeah,
don't know the details of and I won't get into. So I imagine I was gonna say like, oh, guidance counselor or something like that, but that's a little
mhm,
bit too
yeah,
far maybe. But I like that. I really like that. And I think, yeah, Degrassi The Next Generation only really did a good job of incorporating Snake into the show. Like the rest of the
yes,
adults, really, they didn't do well. Like with Spike, they kind of just forgot she existed after a while,
yeah.
and it was disappointing. So,
It was just him and Connor for a lot of the time.
yeah, which again, who we're just jumping all over the place, but like who is Connor's parent? Do you have any headcanons for who Connor's parents are? I've heard people say
I have
Lucy. I've heard people
I
say
don't know because he
Lucy.
said like his godson, maybe Lucy,
Cause yeah, it's somebody that somebody that
his
Snake is not related to, but it's someone that he's like a
yeah,
friend, right? Because it's a godson. Because I've heard,
yeah,
no, I've heard. I wish that they had made it nephew and made him
yeah, nephew,
Glenn's son. I'm
yeah,
attached to that theory. If they had made it nephew instead of godson, but they made it godson. So
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, um,
Nope.
yeah. James also wanted to know if you have read the Wheels character book, and if
Yes, I
so,
have.
what is your opinion, spoiler free? Because I think that one has some spoilers in it, doesn't it? What is your opinion of that one?
Uh, I wish I like the characters that he meets on the show.
Mhm.
I mean, in the book, like that's the thing with novels, like you fall in love, get invested with these characters from a TV
Yeah,
show, like, but they're not in the TV show, and like you want to see more of them, but they only live in that book. But I wanted to see more of the girl that he meets, and I also feel bad for a situation he has at the movies
interesting.
with an older gentleman, and that's all I'll say. Yeah, he doesn't have good luck with older men, or older adults, not men. I mean, older adults. Let's
I'm
just say
very
I said too much.
No, you didn't, because I still have no idea what happens, and I like getting these little tidbits because it makes me even more curious to get there and figure out what it means.
I love him hanging out in Yonge Street in Toronto, and like
Yeah.
because being going to Toronto, I can see the areas where he's hanging out in the book. So that's why I like going to.
Yeah.
I can see it in my.
Yeah, you can
I don't
get
know. Yeah.
explore it. It makes sense to me. I think I might have gotten through all of those questions. I've got a couple more on our general list that I could kind of wrap up with, but we've talked for almost an hour and a half. Sorry, not
Okay.
sorry for
No.
taking up your time. I'm having a lot of fun.
I actually now feel comfortable talking to other Degrassi fans because for a while I was a passive
Yeah.
Degrassi fan because I couldn't see myself in 2017 like messaging like a 13-year-old and be like, "Oh, what do you think of Hunter and Yael's relationship? Oh, you're doing your homework. I'm sorry. Oh, your dad's mad.
Yeah.
Tell him that the middle-aged black guy says hi and he's sorry for bothering you." Like it's so awkward.
It's nice also. I think there's a special like this is kind of a special era of the fandom where most of the fans of the show are adults and we can interact with each other. Like everyone's there's very few. There are some kids that are still discovering the show and joining the fandom, but for the most part when we are interacting with people, it's a lot of adults reflecting on their nostalgia for the show rather than yeah, there was sort of a weird imbalance for a while where the show was for teenagers and there were teenagers actively watching it because it was being produced for teenagers, versus now I feel like the fandom is in a really good spot where adults can kind of interact with each other and befriend each other and it not be weird, you know? It's
Yeah.
fun. I like this era of the fandom, and I'm glad to see you get a little bit like out of your shell more and get more comfortable with the fandom. I love seeing that, and I love feeling like a little bit of a part of that, like helping you come out of your shell a little
Yeah.
bit and feel comfortable with fellow Degrassi fans, because we're not too scary. We're pretty cool. We're pretty nice. We all love this show. I feel like Degrassi, being a Degrassi fan, especially a Degrassi super fan, is really like a like you know that the person's relatively safe and relatively cool if they are this obsessed with a show that
Mhm.
has such a
Yeah.
good heart, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like we can understand and come to an understanding just upon meeting that we are going to agree on a lot
Oh,
of
because
things, and
yeah.
we're going to we're going to like get along and agree on a lot of things because we come from this place of accepting and understanding people from watching Degrassi. So I'm glad, yeah, and I'm glad to have become your friend and connected with you about Degrassi.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, so we have had a great long discussion about Degrassi Junior High and Parents' Night. I could talk to you for literal hours, and I am excited to have you back on. Clearly, our passion about Degrassi inspires us to keep chatting. So I just wanted to ask you one more question, kind of as a wrap up, and that is, how has Degrassi impacted your life personally?
Tremendously, with entertainment, with meeting people like you around the world. And honestly, Degrassi informed my choices of how I view women. Like as a young man, like developing man, like there's certain things that a man should know on how to treat women, girls, in a
Absolutely.
respectful way. And like I think it's very and Degrassi it's not just for girls, it's for guys too, I think
For
guys
everybody,
should
yeah.
watch Degrassi more and like take notes how to be a
Yeah, how to
decent
be a
human being.
man. Yeah, how to be a
Yeah,
yeah, even just a decent human being.
because I knew about feminism through Degrassi.
Yeah,
Like a lot of the themes were feminism, and like it's okay. It's not a dirty word, boys, for boys to know about. Like Lucy was a feminist, and I just have a deeper appreciation. And Degrassi, I guess, raised me to be.
absolutely.
I don't always do the right thing, but just to be a respectable dude or
Yeah.
person. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think the show being created by a woman, Linda Schuyler, definitely informs a lot of that and like kind of sets a tone for the show. I know that not everybody behind the screen was a woman, but a lot of it, the core values of the show, I think, come from Linda Schuyler, who is an amazing influence, an amazing, inspiring woman. So I'm very glad that that's something that you so like strongly picked up, because yeah, I do feel like a lot of the fans that I run into are women or people who were like socialized as women, and it's really nice to hear that specific take. And I have said over and over again that Degrassi really helped me understand points of view that I've never experienced and that I never will experience, and helped me build empathy. And I think I 100% agree with you in that it helped me just understand and support people better, and just yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I think that's something that a lot of people take away from Degrassi. So that's very good to hear. And I think that's very resonant. And I really appreciate hearing from you and getting to know you a little bit better and getting to show the Degrassi schools and listeners how amazing Degrassi CSI is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, I appreciate you so much, and I had so much fun. Let's get our little Funko Pops to say goodbye. For those who are watching on video, if you're not, you are missing out on some cuteness. We've got the Zit Remedy and Lola Bassini front and center right now. Hell yeah! All right, you guys, yeah,
I was ready.
Panthers.
Your picture. Do you do
Oh, I can
the
do a picture.
iconic
Yeah, let's do
picture?
a selfie.
Oh,
Yeah, let's do a selfie. All right, I always forget,
with
but
yeah.
let's do. Yeah, let me get Lola in my frame too. Oh, I gotta get Lola in my frame and not blocking you. All right, here we go.
Okay.
All right, I'm getting a couple pictures. Cute. All right, I got one. All right. Are you ready to say goodbye to the Panthers?
Goodbye, Panthers.
Goodbye, Panthers.
Goodbye, Panthers. All
Goodbye,
right.
Panthers.
Goodbye, Panthers.